From a flicker of candlelight in 1789 to the glare of modern screens in the West Wing, every president has held the pen. Executive orders not passed by Congress, but etched into law by command. Some shaped history. Some sparked controversy. Others were forgotten. Until now. This is where we break them down. Every signature, every shift in power, every consequence still felt today. From Washington to Biden, welcome to Executive Order Watch.
Democracy, we live for it. For democracy, we fight for it. For democracy, we've died for it. And for democracy, we watch it. This is Executive Order Watch.
1970, it was a year of collision, of idealism and unrest, of law and disorder, of war abroad and fury at home. As president, I believed in action, swift, firm, and unapologetic, but I also believed in strategy. In 1970, I governed with both, confronting a nation deeply divided but still deeply capable. Let's talk about what defined that year. The war in Vietnam was still raging, and in April I announced that U.S. forces had entered Cambodia. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but I believed it was necessary to cut off North Vietnamese supply lines and protect American troops. Still, the response at home was immediate and intense. On May 4th, the tragedy at Kent State University stunned the nation. 4 students dead, shot by National Guardsmen during an anti-war protest. The anger, the fear, it spread like wildfire. Campuses across America erupted in protest. Trust in government frayed even further. But it wasn't just about war. That year, I took bold steps to confront a new enemy, one that didn't wear a uniform or raise a flag. Pollution, smog in our cities, poison in our rivers, filth in our skies. For too long, we ignored it. In 1970, we finally acted. We established the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, a monumental shift. For the first time, the federal government took direct responsibility for protecting our air, water, and land. That same year, we saw the first Earth Day, April 22nd. Millions of Americans, young and old, rallied across the country. It wasn't about politics. It was about survival, about future generations, and I supported it. Because conservation is not a partisan issue. It's an American duty. There were other defining moments, too. In August, the Women's Strike for Equality signaled a rising wave for gender rights. The Postal Reorganization Act was signed, transforming the old post office department into a self-sustaining United States Postal Service. And in November, I signed a bill banning cigarette ads on television and radio, the first major blow to Big Tobacco's grip on public messaging. All of this required leadership, sometimes stubborn, sometimes unpopular, but always focused. I governed with an executive mindset. Where Congress delayed, I acted. Where bureaucracy hesitated, I pushed forward. And yes, I used executive orders. Not as a substitute for democracy, but as an instrument of direction, of control, of forward movement. We'll get into those orders next. But know this, in 1970, I wasn't just steering the ship of state. I was trying to turn it around. Let's begin. Executive Order 11,504, amending Executive Order number 11,248, placing certain positions in levels 4 and 5 of the Federal Executive Salary Schedule on January 14, 1970. Executive Order 11,505, inspection of income, excess profits, estate, and gift tax returns by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary on January 21, 1970. Executive Order 11,506. Further amending Executive Order number 11,211, relating to the exclusion for original or new Japanese issues as required for international monetary stability on February 2, 1970. Executive Order 11,507, prevention, control, and abatement of air and water pollution at federal facilities on February 4, 1970. Executive Order 11,508, providing for the identification of unneeded federal real property on February 10, 1970. Executive Order 11,509, establishing the President's Advisory Council on Management Improvement on February 11, 1970. Executive Order 11,510, amending Executive Order number 11,248, placing certain positions in Level 4 and 5 of the Federal Executive Salary Schedule on February 16, 1970. Executive Order 11,511, amending Executive Order number 11,157 as it relates to basic allowances for quarters for members without dependents on February 27, 1970. Executive Order 11,512, planning, acquisition, and management of federal space on February 27, 1970. Executive Order 11,513, establishing the President's Commission on School Finance on March 3, 1970. Executive Order 11,514, protection and enhancement of environmental quality on March 5, 1970. Executive Order 11,515, terminating certain bodies established by the President on March 13, 1970. Executive Order 11,516, amending Executive Order number 11,248, placing certain positions in Levels 4 and 5 of the Federal Executive Salary Schedule on March 19, 1970. Executive Order 11,517, providing for the issuance and signature by the Secretary of State of warrants appointing agents to return fugitives from justice extradited to the United States on March 19, 1970. Executive Order 11,518, providing for the increased representation of the interests of small business concerns before departments and agencies of the United States government on March 20, 1970. Executive Order 11,519, calling into service members and units of the National Guard on March 23, 1970. Executive Order 11,520, amending Executive Order number 11,407, relating to the Presidential Service Certificate and the Presidential Service Badge on March 25, 1970. Executive Order 11,521, authorizing veterans readjustment appointments for veterans of the Vietnam era on March 26, 1970. Executive Order 11,522, assigning emergency preparedness functions to the United States Information Agency on April 6, 1970. Executive Order 11,523, establishing the National Industrial Pollution Control Council on April 9, 1970. Executive Order 11,524, adjusting rates of pay for certain statutory schedules on April 15, 1970. Executive Order 11,525, adjusting rates of monthly basic pay for members of the Uniformed Services on April 15, 1970. Executive Order 11,526, establishing the National Council on Federal Disaster Assistance on April 22, 1970. Executive Order 11,527, amending the Selective Service Regulations on April 23, 1970. Executive Order 11,528, changing the jurisdiction and membership of the New England River Basins Commission on April 24, 1970. Executive Order 11,529, terminating obsolete bodies established by Executive Order on April 24, 1970. Executive Order 11,530, amending Executive Order number 10,624 as amended, providing for regulations relating to personnel of the Department of Agriculture assigned to service abroad on May 26, 1970. Executive Order 11,531, delegating authority of the President under Section 4102A2B of Title V, United States Code, to designate U.S. Marshals and U.S. Attorneys for training on May 26, 1970. Executive Order 11,532, establishing the Interdepartmental Committee for the Voluntary Payroll Savings Plan for the purchase of United States savings bonds on June 2, 1970. Executive Order 11,533, administration of the Export Administration Act of 1969 on June 4, 1970. Executive Order 11,534, establishing the National Council on Organized Crime on June 4, 1970. Executive Order 11,535, inspection of tax returns by the Committee on the Judiciary, House of Representatives on June 12, 1970. Executive Order 11,536, establishing the President's Commission on Campus Unrest on June 13, 1970. Executive Order 11,537, amending the Selective Service Regulations concerning the ordering of registrants for induction on June 16, 1970. Executive Order 11,538. Delegating to the Secretary of Transportation the authority of the President to establish and conduct an international aeronautical exposition on June 29, 1970. Executive Order 11,539, delegations of authority to negotiate agreements and issue regulations limiting imports of certain meats on June 30, 1970. Executive Order 11,540, amending Executive Order Number 11,248, placing certain positions in levels 4 and 5 of the Federal Executive Salary Schedule on July 1, 1970. Executive Order 11,541, prescribing the duties of the Office of Management and Budget and the Domestic Council in the Executive Office of the President on July 1, 1970. Executive Order 11,542, amending Executive Order Number 11,248, placing certain positions in levels 4 and 5 of the Federal Executive Salary Schedule on July 2, 1970. Executive Order 11,543, creating an emergency board to investigate disputes between the carriers represented by the National Railway Labor Conferences and certain of their employees on July 7, 1970. Executive Order 11,544, establishing the Vice Presidential Service Certificate and the Vice Presidential Service Badge on July 8, 1970. Executive Order 11,545, establishing the Defense Distinguished Service Medal on July 9, 1970. Executive Order 11,546, establishing the President's Commission for the Observance of the 25th Anniversary of the United Nations on July 9, 1970. Executive Order 11,547, amending Executive Order Number 11,330 with respect to membership and chairmanship on July 10, 1970. Executive Order 11,548, delegating functions of the President under the Federal Water Pollution Control Act as amended on July 20, 1970. Executive Order 11,549, revoking Executive Order Number 10,361 of June 11, 1952, establishing the Whittier Defensive Sea Area, Alaska, on July 28, 1970. Executive Order 11,550, amending Executive Order Number 11,248, placing certain positions in levels 4 and 5 of the Federal Executive Salary Schedule on July 30, 1970. Executive Order 11,551, amending Executive Order Number 11,399 with respect to the membership of the National Council on Indian Opportunity on August 11, 1970. Executive Order 11,552, providing for details and transfers of federal employees to international organizations on August 24, 1970. Executive Order 11,553, amending the Selective Service Regulations on August 26, 1970. Executive Order 11,554, suspending the provisions of Section 5,707C of Title 10 United States Code, which relate to the establishment of a maximum percentage of Navy officers who may be recommended for promotion from below the appropriate promotion zone on August 29, 1970. Executive Order 11,555, amending the Selective Service Regulations on September 2, 1970. Executive Order 11,556, assigning telecommunications functions on September 4, 1970. Executive Order 11,557, enlarging the membership of the President's Commission for the Observance of the 25th Anniversary of the United Nations on September 10, 1970. Executive Order 11,558, creating an emergency board to investigate disputes between the carriers represented by the National Railway Labor Conference and certain of their employees on September 18, 1970. Executive Order 11,559, creating an emergency board to investigate disputes between the carriers represented by the National Railway Labor Conference and certain of their employees on September 18, 1970. Executive Order 11,560, amending Executive Order Number 11,508 with respect to the membership of the Property Review Board on September 23, 1970. Executive Order 11,561 delegation of certain authority under Title 8 of the Economic Opportunity Act on September 25, 1970. Executive Order 11,562, developing and coordinating a national program for physical fitness and sports on September 25, 1970. Executive Order 11,563, amending the Selective Service Regulations on September 26, 1970. Executive Order 11,564, transfer of certain programs and activities to the Secretary of Commerce on October 6, 1970. Executive Order 11,565, amending Executive Order Number 11,145 with respect to the membership of the Committee for the Preservation of the White House on October 13, 1970. Executive Order 11,566, consumer product information on October 26, 1970. Executive Order 11,567, prescribing the compensation of certain officials in the Bureau of Domestic Commerce, Department of Commerce on November 16, 1970. Executive Order 11,568, exempting A. Everett McIntyre from compulsory retirement for age on November 16, 1970. Executive Order 11,569, amending the Selective Service Regulations on November 24, 1970. Executive Order 11,570, providing for the regulation of conduct for the Postal Rate Commission and its employees on November 24, 1970. Executive Order 11,571, modifying Executive Order No. 6,868 of October 9, 1934, as amended, designating the authority to carry out the provisions of the District of Columbia Alley Dwelling Act on December 8, 1970. Executive Order 11,572, providing for the use of transportation priorities and allocations during the current railroad strike on December 10, 1970. Executive Order 11,573, excusing federal employees from duty for 1/2 day on December 24, 1970, on December 21, 1970. Executive Order 11,574, Administration of Refuse Act Permit Program on December 23, 1970. Executive Order 11,575, providing for the administration of the Disaster Relief Act of 1970 on December 31, 1970.
Pauline's Pizza, where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today?
Yeah, hi. Is Seymour there?
Oh, Seymour. I think he might be busy making our special pies. But hey, why not swing by the pizzeria? We've got a pie with your name on it. Anything else I can help you with?
I was looking for Seymour Butts.
Ah, I see. Well, if you're looking for Seymour Butts, he might be hiding behind a pepperoni slice. Anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's it.
Hi, I'm Terrence, a marketing professional with a passion for helping your business grow smarter and faster. Here at DaBomb Digital Media, based right here in Atlanta, Georgia, we specialize in bringing your vision to life. Whether you're launching your first website or reimagining your entire digital presence, we've got you covered. From modern website design and search engine optimization to setting up your own AI-powered agency tools, we deliver innovative solutions that keep you ahead of the curve. Ready to unlock your business's full potential? Let's build something remarkable together. For more information, visit our YouTube channel. Just search DaBomb Digital Media on YouTube and start exploring tips, success stories, and everything you need to elevate your brand.
1970.
A year of fire and fury, of voices rising and systems shifting. It was a year when the world began to visibly fracture under the weight of war, protest, and environmental awakening. And at the helm of the American presidency stood Richard Milhous Nixon. Let me be clear, Nixon's executive pen didn't rest. He issued over 70 executive orders that year, reshaping the federal government structure, expanding environmental protections, intensifying national security operations, and hardening the administrative machinery that still hums, sometimes too loudly, today. Some of those EOs laid the groundwork for future reform. Others, well, they centralized power in ways we're still wrestling with. Impactful themes of Nixon's executive orders in 1970, environmental policy begins. Nixon signed EO 11514, focused on protecting and enhancing environmental quality. This order was a key precursor to the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, and the establishment of the EPA, both watershed moments for federal environmental responsibility. Selective service overhaul, multiple EOs like 11,527, 11,537, and 11,563 revised the Selective Service regulations as protests against the Vietnam War escalated. Nixon's changes were aimed at placating youth resistance but also tightening federal authority. Crisis management. During the 1970 National Railroad strike, Executive Order 11,572 gave the federal government sweeping power over transportation allocations. An early look at the kind of federal emergency powers that would later expand post 9/11. Civil service and structure. Through orders like 11541, Nixon solidified the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, as a central node of executive control. That order still affects how policy is analyzed, reported, and controlled today. 1. Executive Order 11,514, Protection and Enhancement of Environmental Quality, signed March 5, 1970. This executive order marked a monumental shift in how the federal government approached environmental responsibility. It directed all federal agencies to evaluate the environmental impact of their actions and integrate environmental considerations into their decision-making processes. It called for the establishment of environmental quality reports and procedures to reduce pollution and preserve natural resources. The order became the operational arm of the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, which had just been signed into law on January 1, 1970. EO 11,514 empowered the Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ, and laid the foundation for what would soon become the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. The modern-day Environmental Impact Statement, EIS, required before major federal projects, traces directly to this order. Its influence still permeates federal infrastructure, defense, energy, and transportation projects today. Second Executive Order 11,541, prescribing the duties of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, signed July 1, 1970. This executive order transformed the old Bureau of the Budget into the more powerful and modern Office of Management and Budget, centralizing fiscal policy and executive oversight under the White House. It delegated new responsibilities to the OMB, including evaluating the effectiveness of federal programs, setting budgetary priorities, and improving administrative management. The order also linked the Domestic Council to the OMB, creating a robust feedback loop between policy planning and fiscal control. Today, the OMB remains a cornerstone of executive authority, scrutinizing agency budgets, vetting regulations, and analyzing the cost-benefit of new policies. EO 11,541 reshaped the power dynamics within the executive office and remains one of the most impactful bureaucratic restructurings in post-war American governance. Third Executive Order 11,508, Identification of Unneeded Federal Real Property, signed February 10, 1970. EO 11,508 directed federal agencies to identify underutilized, excess, or obsolete government-owned properties for reassignment, sale, or disposal. This order was rooted in efficiency and accountability, attempting to shrink the federal real estate footprint during a period of fiscal tightening. The implications were significant. By pushing agencies to assess their physical asset portfolios, the order promoted a leaner, more rational approach to property management. Over time, this led to the Federal Property Management Reform Act of 2016, which codified many of these practices. In today's environment, with growing concerns over real estate waste and federal sustainability, Executive Order 11,508's principles are still highly relevant. Fourth Executive Order 11,556, assigning telecommunications functions, signed September 4, 1970. This sweeping order reorganized and reassigned responsibilities related to telecommunications, including emergency communications, spectrum management, and national security operations. It was part of a broader Cold War effort to modernize and centralize control of federal communications infrastructure. EO 11556 gave key authorities to the Office of Telecommunications Policy, empowering it to coordinate between civilian and military needs, develop standards, and secure national systems. Decades later, its spirit can be seen in agencies like the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, and Department of Homeland Security, DHS, especially in their efforts to prevent cyber attacks and secure national communications networks. 5. Executive Order 11523, establishing the National Industrial Pollution Control Council, NIPCC, signed April 9, 1970. This order created a unique public-private advisory body composed of major industrial leaders tasked with finding economically feasible pollution control strategies. The Council acted as a bridge between the rapidly growing environmental movement and the industrial sector that felt increasingly targeted by regulation. Though the NIPCC was disbanded in 1975, its reports and policy recommendations played a key role in shaping early Clean Air and Clean Water Act enforcement strategies. It established a model for future advisory councils in areas like climate policy, corporate sustainability, and green innovation. EO 11523 marked an important, if temporary, effort at environmental industrial diplomacy. 6. Executive Order 11526, establishing the National Council on Federal Disaster Assistance, signed April 22, 1970. EO 11526 formed a council to coordinate disaster response efforts across multiple federal agencies, an early attempt to streamline the patchwork of emergency response responsibilities. It laid the organizational foundation for later disaster relief frameworks by encouraging interagency communication, faster resource deployment, and centralized planning. While this specific council was eventually superseded, the order directly influenced the formation of FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, a decade later. Today's integrated disaster response systems, from hurricanes to wildfires, owe much to this early Nixon-era blueprint. 7. Executive Order 11572, providing for the use of transportation priorities and allocations during the railroad strike, signed December 10, 1970, a national railroad strike that threatened to cripple the economy. Nixon signed Executive Order 11572 to grant the federal government the power to prioritize and allocate transportation services. This emergency measure ensured the movement of essential goods, food, fuel, medical supplies, by rail or alternative means. It set an important precedent. The federal government could override peacetime logistical systems under domestic crisis conditions. EO 11572 later became a reference point during the 1974 oil crisis, 1981 air traffic controller strike, and more recently, COVID-19 related logistics interventions. It also contributed to later statutes under the Defense Production Act. 8. Executive Order 11533, Administration of the Export Administration Act of 1969, signed June 4, 1970. This order clarified presidential authority under the Export Administration Act, particularly with regard to regulating the export of sensitive technologies and commodities. It granted the Secretary of Commerce broad powers to oversee licensing, embargo enforcement, and compliance mechanisms. EO 11533 established a system of dual-use export controls, balancing economic competitiveness with national security. The core structure established by this order remains intact today, governing sensitive exports to nations like China, Iran, and Russia. It has become a powerful economic and diplomatic tool, and its legacy is felt every time export bans or semiconductor restrictions make headlines. 9. Executive Order 11507, Prevention, Control, and Abatement of Air and Water Pollution at Federal Facilities, signed February 4, 1970. This executive order made the federal government accountable for its own environmental footprint. Prior to Executive Order 11507, federal agencies were often exempt from state and local environmental laws. The order reversed that precedent, requiring all federal installations to meet pollution control standards, effectively holding Uncle Sam to the same rules as private industry. It was a critical trust-building move during the early environmental movement. The symbolism of the federal government cleaning up its act helped drive support for broader environmental legislation, including the Clean Water Act of 1972. Today, it informs agency compliance with environmental audits, sustainability ratings, and pollution remediation. 10th Executive Order 11,529, terminating obsolete federal bodies. Signed, April 24, 1970. In this sweeping bureaucratic house cleaning, Nixon abolished numerous advisory councils and commissions that had outlived their purpose. EO 11,529 reflected the Republican commitment to small government at the time, aiming to reduce redundancy and improve executive efficiency. This order eliminated several Cold War-era and New Deal-era entities, signaling a shift from sprawling wartime governance to more streamlined federal operations. While it may seem administrative, its legacy lies in the modern push for agency audits, commission sunsets, and performance-based budgeting. It remains an early example of the president using executive power to prune the federal tree. Global events of 1970. That shaped the world Cambodian campaign, Nixon expanded the Vietnam War into Cambodia, sparking massive protests and leading directly to the Kent State shootings. The Beatles' breakup, a cultural earthquake, the end of the world's most iconic band. Yasser Arafat speaks at the UN. The Palestine Liberation Organization steps onto the world stage. The Bola cyclone killed 500,000 people in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, highlighting failures in global disaster response. Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons enters into force, a crucial step in global arms control. Major events affecting America: Kent State Massacre, May 4, 1970. National Guardsmen killed 4 students during anti-war protests. Nixon's handling of this tragedy widened the gap between government and the youth. The first Earth Day, April 22, 1970, 20 million Americans rallied for the environment, spurred in part by federal inaction. Creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, December 1970. Though formed by law, it was Nixon's tone-shifting orders like Executive Order 11514 that made it a reality. Postal Reorganization Act. The U.S. Post Office transitioned from a cabinet department to an independent agency. Biden, closing remarks. So, when we look at 1970, we're not just flipping through history, we're reading the blueprint of our present. Nixon's executive orders built frameworks we still rely on. They also exposed cracks we still struggle to mend. Environmental protections, emergency authority, bureaucratic muscle, all of it surged forward that year. But the heart of it was a country torn between fear and hope, between silence and protest. A generation stood up and forced power to listen. Let's keep listening. Let's keep building.
Some write history with blood, some with laws, but the sharpest stroke comes from the pen. Executive power ain't just a tool, it's a weapon wielded by the few, affecting the many. They sign it, we live it. They order it, we obey it. Here, watching, digging, remembering, from the plantation to the proclamation, from internment camps to civil rights stands, from surveillance laws to student loan draws. Order can change your life, and you might not even know it, but now you do. So stay locked in, stay woke, stay sharp. We ain't just talking about power, we tracking it. Executive Order Watch, and we ain't blinking.